Absolutely. And yeah, I want to kind of come back to one thing you were saying, Phil, which I think connects as well, is you mentioned sort of habit, and people trying to sort of stay accountable doing something. And back in a previous career around health behavior change, to study a lot around habits and how do you establish habits. And a once a week touch point on a habit, like, it's not going to stick, right? It's not going to, unless the people do the work between. And so I'm kind of curious in this model how your touch points are changing. I understand how it can change, but at a practical level, are you clients you were talking to once a week? Are you now literally talking to every day, as they're trying to establish that habit? Like, what are some of the how's the flow changed as part of this?
It was that for me or Ari? Ari, either.
For
Okay.
you to start out, because you were
I'll
talking about habit, but then would love Ari's
okay.
perspectives.
Um, okay. So for me, obviously, I'm still, relatively new to this. So typically my coaching calls are more like every 2 weeks. So I don't tend to do weekly. People can get a little bit overwhelmed. Again, ADHD stuff. So, every couple of weeks allows people, time to just, think and about whatever it is that we've discussed and let it settle a little bit before actually taking action. Um, how has it changed in the kind of the async model? I if I haven't heard from someone in 2 to 3 days, I'll always nudge them. 2 to 3, depending on, maybe the client. Some people will prefer to talk a little bit more frequently. Some people prefer to talk a little bit less. So if I hadn't heard them from in that amount of time, I'll always nudge them. But the interesting thing for me is that and this is a specific, carbon voice thing. We've always got access to the conversation as we're kind of, moving up. So it's very easy for me to kind of go back and say, oh, how are you getting on with the whatever it was that we've been, discussing? And that makes it a lot easier for me to keep on top of what it is that we're dealing with, that in that specific moment. Because, we can certainly in the voice model, I think we can go faster in terms of coaching compared to the non-voice. So what's it look like for me? Well, I have a bunch of people who message me, every day or two. I have a bunch of people who message me, um, twice a week, that kind of thing. And if I don't hear from them, it's a chance for me to go and initiate a conversation. What's happening with this thing? What's happening with your week? Where are you up to? So yeah, it has actually made quite a big difference to my own interaction with people. Normally I wouldn't expect to hear from people for a couple of weeks or something. So yeah, big change from my side.
So it's interesting because accountability, obviously, like as a coach, you're providing accountability, but I feel like that's not one of the main things that I offer. There's actually a good friend of mine, uh, Peter Shallard, has a company, which is it's pure accountability. You like talk to somebody every single day, basically for like 5 minutes to check in, and that's what they do. And there's a lot of benefits of those kinds of things. That's not what I offer. For me, might feel like my service is a lot more push from the client to me. And they really need to be more proactive about the way that they utilize it. But what I have found that is very interesting in that is that I do have probably, I'd say 10% of my clients I speak to every single day. And it could be for, a couple minutes at a time. And then I have the bulk of my clients that I probably hear from once or twice a week. And then I have a couple clients that I probably get a direct message from once every 3 to 4 months. But what I do in addition to the one-on-one is I also do a group broadcast, which is something that I believe, Travis, we sort of a lot of features you built up for me, thankfully, in Carbon for me to be able to do that. And so when I stopped my podcast, I did 500 episodes of my own podcast over the course of 8 years, and I just kind of got a little bored of it. This became like my own private podcast. So I do a broadcast message. It's free. Anybody can get on it. It's lessdoingacademy.com. It's in Carbon and it's listen only, so they can't respond. But I'll have my clients in there too. And I'd say I probably send something in there at least once a week. And inevitably those clients, particularly the ones that are 3 months, every 3 months I hear from them, they'll say like, I've been listening to the group broadcast and I had a thought about this, and this thing. So a lot of times when I'm voicing those ideas, I'm thinking of three audiences. One is potential clients, right? So there's that lead generation aspect of it. The second one is for existing clients. So it's something that's an idea, and this is the same piece of content, right? The second one is an existing client. So it's something that they can use right now, or they can message me and be like, that sounds awesome. How do I build that thing? How do I do that? How do I hire that person? And the third one is people that work with me or for me, right? Because if I send a message, for example, about, oh, I just built this really cool automation where I can say something in Carbon and now it becomes a Trello card, right? So the lead gen aspect is like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you could do that with Carbon. That's so cool. That's the new people, right? The existing clients are like, show me how to build that right now. And then the people that are working with me or for me are like, okay, I see what Ari did there, and I'll go to Zapier and I can build it, right? So those are the three audiences I'm always trying to think of. I can't always hit all three with every piece of content, but that's what I sort of have in my mind when I do those blasts. So the people that are working with me, or clients rather, have that benefit where they can hear that, but then they can also then have a conversation with me about it.
Yeah, it becomes the nudge that sort of moves all these conversations forward in a way that is very scaled, which is cool. So when both of you said some people talking to you every day, I'm sure people from the traditional model are saying, "Oh my gosh, how do I do that? I'm talking